Top 15 pics of the 4 Horsewomen WWE doesn't want you to see.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
15.
Lana pantsing Charlotte. One of the beauties of live television is the fact that literally anything can happen on screen while on the air. Take this match between Charlotte Flair and Lana from SmackDown Live earlier this year as an example. Early in the match, the two exchanged wrestling holds and Lana went for a roll-up, grabbing Charlotte by her tights. Apparently, she might have grabbed Charlotte a little too hard, and tight as Charlotte's derriere was exposed for the live crowd to take a gander at. The crowd was so appreciative of the sight, they started a "Thank you Lana" chant. The moment was cut by WWE in their YouTube replay of the match, so clearly, they don't want anyone seeing this mistake who hasn't already.
14.
Bayley and AJ Lee. Despite at one time being WWE's longest reigning Divas Champion, AJ Lee and WWE ended their partnership on bad terms. While Lee herself never crossed WWE, her husband CM Punk walked out on the company in early 2014 and never looked back. WWE was noticeably upset about how Punk left their company, considering they sent Punk his termination papers on the day of his wedding. While AJ Lee continued to work for WWE for a little over a year afterward, she chose to resign after WrestleMania 31 and left. Conveniently, WWE decided to erase AJ Lee from their history books by making Nikki Bella their new longest reigning Divas Champion. Since they went through that much trouble to not talk about AJ Lee anymore, they definitely won't mention that Bayley wrestled AJ Lee in 2013, while Bayley was still wrestling for NXT.
13.
Charlotte's leaked pics. We are not going to repost Charlotte Flair's actual leaked photos for obvious reasons, but the fact remains that these are pictures that both Charlotte and WWE as a whole would like to keep off of internet. Again, for obvious reasons. However, the fact remains that Charlotte Flair was another victim of a bad hacking in 2017. Nude photos of Charlotte Flair were swiped from her phone and shared across the internet. Charlotte Flair's only public statement on the matter, so far at least, was a tweet where she pointed out private photos of mine were stolen and shared publicly without my consent. These images must be removed from the internet immediately.
12.
Sasha Banks snatched bald. Sasha Banks has become synonymous with wearing some flattering wigs of all shapes and colors. Unfortunately for the boss, these wigs are hard to keep in place while wrestling. Therefore, there have been some moments where her wig would slide past her forehead and make for a rather unflattering sight. Knowing this has led to many wrestling fans around the world screenshotting certain moments where Sasha Banks' wig flies so far back, it looks as if she's balding. This is just one example of many such photos across the internet. Photos like this are pretty embarrassing, and so Sasha Banks and WWE probably don't want you to see or share stuff like this.
11.
Charlotte in WCW. When discussing her past prior to becoming a wrestler, WWE loves to point out all of the things that Charlotte did in her pre-WWE life, like gymnastics and volleyball, at least all of things pertaining to her as an athlete. As an actor, and as an on-screen wrestling personality, she was on the silver screen at the young age of 13, and she was doing so for WCW. During the year 2000, Charlotte and the rest of Ric Flair's family frequently appeared on WCW television during his feud with Vince Russo. WWE have a history with being reluctant to acknowledge a superstar's prior history in WWE, and from the looks of it, they're not in any hurry to reference Charlotte's WCW appearances.
10.
10. Sasha Banks annoyed with a fan. WWE seem to always try to emphasize how their superstars love to meet and interact with members of the WWE Universe, the name collectively given to the audience and fans of WWE. A picture like this tends to send the opposite message. Here, we see Sasha Banks taking a picture with a fan and is clearly annoyed and not enjoying herself. To Sasha Banks' credit, and to come to her defense, we don't think we would want to take a picture with a fan who ambushes us at the airport as soon as we get off the plane either. The fact she had the energy to even agree to the picture is commendable. However, WWE probably want their wrestlers to greet all their fans with a smile no matter what.
9.
9. Charlotte's mug shot. In 2008, long before she ever even thought about training to become a professional wrestler, Charlotte Flair was arrested after a full-blown fight broke out between her then-boyfriend, and her father Ric Flair. In the midst of the scuffle, a police officer got involved to try and break it up, but she resisted arrest and assaulted the officer. Although, while in court, Charlotte pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, she was sentenced to 45 days in prison. It then turned into supervised probation, and she was forced to pay a $200 fine. Obviously, neither Charlotte or WWE themselves want to bring light to her messy past situation, and so they don't want people seeing her mugshot or knowing about the altercation to begin with.
8.
8. Becky Lynch and Paige pre-WWE. Like many wrestlers on the WWE roster, Becky Lynch got her start on the independent wrestling scene. Although, from 2006 to 2013, Lynch had retired from in-ring competition after suffering one too many blows to the head and was diagnosed with damage to her 8th cranial nerve. Starting in 2011, Lynch made the transition from wrestler to manager. In the meantime, she worked in Shimmer as a manager to Saraya Knight and her daughter Brittany Knight, who is now more commonly recognized as WWE's Paige. Despite the fact that Becky Lynch and Paige, with Charlotte Flair, were in a stable in 2015 called PCB, WWE never mentioned their pre-WWE friendship. Probably because they don't want their audience knowing what goes on with their wrestlers before they hit the big stage.
7.
7. Sasha Banks bleeding. The year 2016 was quite monumental for both Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. Since both were interlocked in a feud as career rivals destined to fight forever, the two had a series of title matches battling over the Women's Championship. They had no DQ matches, a Falls Count Anywhere match, the first ever Hell in a Cell match between women, and a month later, the first ever Iron Man match between women on the main roster. In their Iron Man match from the Roadblock pay-per-view, these ladies pulled out all the stops to create a compelling match. So much so that somewhere along the way, Sasha started bleeding from her mouth. Considering WWE's strict no-blood policy, don't expect many shots of this on WWE TV.
6.
6. The Reid Flair line. When Charlotte Flair and Paige were set to square off at Survivor Series 2015 for the Divas Championship, the women's division still lacked a lot of respect from the crowd. After years of bra and panties matches and bathroom break segments, the women of WWE still had a long way to go before fans gave them their due. WWE went through extreme lengths to make the fans care about this match, including having Paige name drop and insult Charlotte's dead brother. WWE received tons of flack for making such a distasteful booking decision, even by Ric Flair, who admitted he had no idea WWE was going to reference his dead son. Understandably, WWE has gone far to act like this moment never happened. They didn't even acknowledge it during the Survivor Series pay-per-view.
5.
5. The table doesn't break during HIAC. Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair spent much of 2016 trading the Women's Championship in a series of stellar title matches. One of their more historic encounters saw the two women wrestle in a Hell in a Cell match, making it the first time women had a match inside of the steel structure. The match itself received mixed reviews, but regardless, it's a HIAC accolade that can never be taken away from either competitor. However, one thing that did take away from the match was that the finish saw Charlotte throw Sasha on a table, but since Sasha was far too light, the table didn't break. For good reason, WWE cleverly edited that part out. It was an embarrassing spot to end a monumental match.
4.
4. Sasha bullies Bayley's #1 fan. Back when she wrestled for WWE's developmental brand, NXT, as a rookie, Bayley had a bit fan in the audience who attended just about every single NXT show just to see Bayley. That fan was a young child named Izzy. She'd frequently be seen in the front row of NXT shows decked out in Bayley gear, while cheering on her favorite wrestler. During the main event of NXT TakeOver, Respect, Izzy took center stage in the middle of a match. The match was Sasha Banks vs. Bayley, where Banks wrestled as a heel, a villain in wrestling terms. To get some rightful boos, she approached Izzy and bullied her, most memorably by snatching the scrunchie off the girl's head, mimicking Bayley, and throwing it away. Considering that Sasha Banks making a small child cry doesn't quite align with WWE's Be a Star anti-bullying campaign, don't expect this moment to show up on any highlight reels.
3.
3. Izzy moves on from Bayley. So much for being Bayley's #1 fan. Between 2014 and 2015, that young Izzy was front row for all of Bayley's NXT matches, and cheering her on while wearing Bayley's t-shirts. Now, it seems that Izzy's gotten old enough to get over her fascination with Bayley. This is a picture of Izzy when she attended a WWE event decked out in gear for Alexa Bliss, a wrestler who Bayley has spent much of 2017 feuding with. WWE has not, and will likely never address the fact that Bayley lost her #1 fan to her arch-rival.
2.
2. Becky Lynch was at Rosebud. Before he was granted his release by WWE in 2016, Adam Rose's character was that of a non-stop partygoer. Naturally, to be a true party animal, he needed his own posse of partiers that accompanied him to the ring every week. This group of partiers were known collectively as Adam Rose's Rosebuds. The roles for these Rosebuds were typically filled by then NXT wrestlers, who went on to get called up to the main roster. Such rookies in training that are now recognizable faces include Braun Strowman, Simon Gotch, Elias Sampson, Dana Brooke, Carmella, and even Becky Lynch. Before she ever debuted on WWE as a wrestler, she was a Rosebud. WWE never addresses when their current stars were merely used as extras, and don't expect them to do so anytime soon.
1.
1. Becky Lynch's pre-WWE pics. Becky Lynch accomplished a lot during her pre-WWE days. She was trained by Finn Balor, a fellow WWE superstar, wrestled all over the world, worked as a flight attendant, received a degree in acting, worked as an actress, briefly retired as a wrestler, became a manager, and made a comeback to the ring, all before she got signed to the biggest company in the wrestling business, WWE. One of the things that WWE do not want you to know about Becky Lynch is that partook in some rather risque and revealing pictures, such as this one. WWE prides itself on being a PG-rated family product. Since pics like this aren't exactly PG, they'd rather you not see pics of Lynch like this.
Yeah.